am Emily, 28 years old, and I live in a quiet city apartment. It's a simple life, really. I work as a librarian, surrounded by shelves of books, the smell of old paper and quiet whispers filling the air. It's peaceful, almost comforting, like I'm wrapped in a blanket of routine. But if I'm being honest, it's also a bit hollow. I never imagined my life would amount to more than this. It's not that I don't like my job or my space, but lately I feel like I'm drifting. Days blur into one another, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm stuck in a loop, just going through the motions without any real purpose. I try to ignore the feeling, brush it off as just a phase, but it doesn't work. It's like a nagging voice in the back of my mind, reminding me that something's missing. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm starting to wonder if I'll ever find it. I talk to my sister, Emma, about it sometimes. She's always been the one who keeps me grounded, reminding me that I'm not alone. And then there's Sarah, my best friend. She's always got an encouraging word for me, even when I can't find any for myself. But even their support can't fill the gap I feel inside. And then there's James, my fiancé. I love him, I really do, but sometimes I feel like there are parts of him he's not sharing with me. It's like there's this invisible wall between us, and I don't know how to break through. We live in the same space, share the same life, but I feel distant. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overthinking everything, but what if I'm not? It started on an ordinary day, one of those days where everything felt predictable. The sun was shining, the library was quiet, and I was sitting behind the desk, flipping through pages of a book I barely noticed. My phone rang. Nothing unusual about that, except the number was unfamiliar. I picked it up absent-mindedly, expecting a telemarketer or someone I could easily ignore, but when I heard the voice on the other end, my heart stopped. "I know James," the voice said. Its tone cold and cryptic. I felt a sudden chill, my breath catching in my throat. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking more than I intended. My fingers tightened around the phone, the words coming out in a rush. "Who is this?" The man on the other end didn't answer right away. There was a long pause, like he was deciding how much to tell me. Then his voice lowered, carrying an unsettling weight. He made a promise to me. Promise? My mind raced, the room feeling smaller as the words echoed in my ears. James had never mentioned anything like that to me. He was always so open with me, so why hadn't he told me about this? I tried to steady myself, but there was a pit forming in my stomach. Who was this man? What was he talking about? The urgency in his voice didn't match the simple nature of the words. I didn't know what to think. Was this a mistake? A prank, maybe? But the man's voice, it didn't sound like it. He was serious, too serious. I hung up, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The man's words played in my head like a broken record, a promise. What did that mean? Why hadn't James ever mentioned it? The doubt crept in, slowly at first. Was James hiding something from me? I tried to push it away, but it kept coming back, gnawing at the edges of my mind. I wanted to believe this was nothing, but deep down I couldn't ignore the growing sense that something was wrong. And now I couldn't help but wonder, what if there was more to this than I realized? The days that followed the phone call felt like they were dragging on, each one heavier than the last. That conversation, the voice, the promise, kept repeating in my mind, and the more I thought about it, the more unsettled I became. Every time I looked at James, I saw him differently. It was subtle at first, a glance that seemed to linger too long, a shift in his tone, something off in the way he moved. But it didn't take long for me to realize that he was distant. He wasn't the same. not in the way he smiled or the way he'd wrap his arms around me when we'd watch TV. Something had shifted, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. It was as if he was carrying a secret, one that he couldn't, or wouldn't, share with me. I began to question everything. Why hadn't he told me about this promise? What was he hiding? Every conversation we had started to feel like I was prying. I'd ask him how his day went, and his answers were always too vague. Busy, he'd say, nothing special. But he wouldn't elaborate, and it made my chest tighten. When I'd ask about his past, there was this slight hesitation in his voice, like he was trying to choose his words carefully, like he was avoiding something. And that made my mind spiral. I started to wonder if I was just being paranoid, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Why wasn't he being open with me? I wanted to trust him. I really did. But the more I thought about that phone call, the more my doubts crept in. The fear was overwhelming. What if I was just imagining things? What if this was all in my head? But then I couldn't shake the feeling that this promise, whatever it was more than just a casual remark. What if it was something bigger? What if it was something that could ruin everything we'd built? I was on edge all the time. Every time I looked at James, I couldn't stop myself from wondering, could I trust him? Or was I just living a lie, too blind to see it? The uncertainty gnawed at me day and night. I didn't know what to believe anymore. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to find out the truth, no matter what it cost. That evening, I couldn't take it anymore. The tension had been building up for days, and it felt like I was drowning in it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't focus on anything except the one question that kept gnawing at me. What was James hiding? The moment I walked into the room, the weight of it hit me. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I needed answers. "Who was that man?" I blurted out, my voice shaking. "What promise are they talking about?" The words spilled from me, each one carrying all the fear, uncertainty, and desperation I'd been holding in. James froze. His eyes went wide for a split second, just long enough for me to catch the flicker of guilt that flashed across his face. But then, as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared. He turned away and my heart dropped. For a long moment the room was silent. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, the uncertainty wrapping around me like a thick fog. I held my breath, waiting. Finally he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Emily, I didn't want to hurt you. The promise. It's something I made a long time ago. It's part of my past, and I thought it was something I could leave behind." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my knees buckle and I had to grip the edge of the table to stay upright. A promise? The realization hit me like a wave. James had made a promise to someone before me, and now that promise was threatening everything we'd built together. My chest tightened, the sting of betrayal seeping in. For a moment, everything around me went blurry. My mind raced. Why didn't he tell me? Why keep something so important hidden from me? I'd trusted him, and now it felt like everything I'd believed in was unraveling right in front of my eyes. I wanted to scream, to run away from all of it, but I couldn't. I was frozen in place, staring at the man I thought I knew, and realizing that I didn't know him at all. In that moment, I had to make a choice. Could I forgive him? Could I look past this, or was this something I couldn't move past? The pain inside me felt unbearable, but strangely, something else shifted too. I had a choice. The truth hurt, but it opened my eyes to something bigger. I didn't have to let this break me. I didn't have to let it destroy everything I was. It was time for me to decide what I was willing to accept and what I wasn't. The days following that confrontation were heavy, full of silence and thoughts I wasn't sure how to process. I needed time to sit with everything. The promise, the lies, the betrayal. At first, it felt like the weight of it all might crush me, But gradually I started to think more clearly, and one thing became painfully obvious. James's past was just that, his past. It didn't have to ruin my future. The man I loved had made mistakes, and I had too. We were both flawed, both carrying things we wished we could forget, but maybe that's just part of being human. We all make mistakes. What mattered was how we handled them, how we moved forward. I realized something important in that moment. Forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's actions. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of what's already happened, not letting it hold you hostage. I had to decide if I was willing to move forward with James. And when I finally gave myself space to breathe, I realized I was. It wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be perfect. But maybe nothing really is. Still, there was a chance to rebuild, to take what was broken and try to make it whole again. And that was enough for both of us. Looking back, I can see the lessons that came from all of this. I've learned that trust takes time to rebuild, and sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us the most about ourselves. But I'm still learning. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe we'll face more challenges, maybe there will be more secrets. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own path. With James by my side, and with Emma, with Sarah, I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because I've learned to trust myself first. If you liked this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Stay tuned for new stories.